then I'll have Joe do a roll call. That's how we do that.
All right, roll call. Matt Sutter,
Present.
Arden Chafee here, Brett Smith, Joe Phillips, and Linda Hutchison. So a quorum, is that you? You're supposed to determine that?
What's that?
The
Do we have
majority.
enough here? Yeah,
3 of the 5.
yeah. So we're good.
Okay. So item number 4, we'll approve the minutes from the last meeting, special meeting, October 25th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve those? Need to review them?
Chairman, I think Linda's name is misspelled. Somebody take that down.
I can go back in.
And how should that be spelled? With an N?
How does it spell in the minutes?
I think it's Hutchison instead of Hutchins. Pebbles, do you know?
I think it's Hutchison. That's
Hutchison.
what it was on here.
Yeah, but
Are
in
you seeing
the
it
minutes, it's
elsewhere?
got an N, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, in the minutes. Okay.
Linda's last name is Hutchison.
In the minutes, it has an N in there. I guess you can determine that though.
I move to approve the minutes of the special meeting October 25th with that correction.
And I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
Okay, so we'll have a roll call on that. I do have a question before we have a roll call. I was reading somewhere on the roll call, and our chairman is actually not supposed to vote on that, only in tie situation.
That is in this book. Hold on.
You know anything about that, Arden? No, I did. I read that, and it said that when you make the roll call, you make the roll call. If it's a tie, then the chairman would then break the tie.
Right here, the duties of the chairman are to take the lead role in managing the board activities, to comply with Robert's Rules of Order, to have the final vote on any 5-2 decision in a tiebreaker decision making, and to provide other duties as needed. So have the final vote or the tiebreaker vote.
What are you thinking on that? What's your guys' opinion on that? I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I just thought we'd try to get it
I had the same role with city council. I only voted to break a tie, but I always voted to approve the minutes.
Okay.
What do you think, Marianne?
I think it was the first time I heard this.
Pebbles?
Normally the chairman is to break a tie.
So,
Just to vote to break a tie. But
I don't see a problem.
I don't
with doing it
either,
in
really,
minutes.
because
I mean, unless he makes it.
unless it would be something that would
Because
be,
if you say you don't agree with him and he does agree with him, then obviously he's breaking the
Right.
tie. If you both are yes and his yes is a yes but doesn't really,
Yes.
okay, Matt.
Good question.
he doesn't
Yeah,
look like he has.
yes.
You know.
Arden
Yes.
and Joe is a yes. Okay, so meetings are passed.
Okay.
Minutes are passed.
Thank you, Joe. Item number 5 will be discuss possible action regarding the remaining EMS board officer position.
Without Linda here, the 4 positions that are stated in the book are already covered by you 3 plus Brett. The 4th position is the member, or the 5th position is a member at large, so, I mean,
Unless we wanted to change something whenever she comes on, she'd just be a member at large.
so there's really no action to be taken.
We'll just leave the board as it is. Nobody wants to change. Okay.
Okay?
Item 6 is discuss the possible action regarding terms of appointment for EMS board members.
Oh, that's this. And what,
Oh,
what we do is we're supposed to draw numbers for 1 through 5, meaning that if you draw number 1, you're on for a year, all the way up to number 5 to 5 years.
Okay.
Now, the thing about that I'm not 100% sure on is when that 1 year starts. Does it start now, or does it, because the year actually, our year of appointment actually is July 1st. So I'm guessing that for the first 6 months we're on, and then it starts the year after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was wondering that
Thinking
also.
it's fiscal year.
Pardon me?
You're thinking it's fiscal year.
Right. I don't know that for sure, but that, I was going to ask you and I forgot. But that's what my thinking
Is that about
is.
5/22?
Julie?
Terms of appointment, it just says at the first meeting of the 522 board, the original appointed members will draw lots to determine each member's length of term in office. The number of lots will be equal to the number of original positions on the board. They will be numbered sequentially 1 through 5, with lots in excess of the 5th lot being numbered sequentially 1 through 5. The original board member will hold office for the number of years indicated on his or her lot. When a board member completes his or her allotted numbers of years, the Board of County Commissioners will appoint a new member to the 522 board to replace those members whose appointment has expired. The new members will be appointed for a term of 5 years. The operation of the EMS district is constantly under the authority and diligent surveillance of the appointed 522 board trustees. So it doesn't say.
Ours normally is we do in January because that's when you go to meet every quarter. Because come July, you're probably going to meet in June to see if there's any extra money with July 1st starting a new quarter. That's how ours always is a little bit on our 522. But I think you guys can have the liberty to set that up how you want.
I think that it's all these first few months, 3 months, and then we'll start the year at January. I mean, I think that, because if we're only doing it the calendar year, then somebody's getting off really quick with
Right.
just 2 or 3 months on it. Quit smiling.
But I figured the commissioner would re-elect them and then they'd come back on for 5 years, is how it would work.
That's right. There'll be 5-year terms after this initial
You guys think you're
Right.
lottery.
Right.
you're in for life? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, but
Doing it January is just a good time because every like October, December-ish meeting, you're going to sit in here and decide what meeting dates are for the next year. So that's a perfect time to, okay, we're setting our meeting dates and come January, we'll probably electing new presidents, new chairmen, vice chairman, because someone's probably rolling off. And like Matt said, probably going to be voted back on by the commissioners more than likely. I think January is a good time to be.
Okay, and that's fine with me. When I was reading through that, it was talking about July was and maybe that July is when the budget comes out, the new budget. I don't know for sure
It
about all
is,
that.
yes.
That may be what they're talking about. Okay, so let's let Arden, you get to go first.
Why?
Okay, Matt, you get to go first.
if it's a good number, this is for Brent.
A good number would be 5, wouldn't it? Right here.
Matt.
Welcome to your reappointment.
And the guy with the least
I told you
left
to wait for it.
life expectancy.
5 years.
Well,
It is what it is.
and I'm 3, obviously. Yeah. So, 1 year would be Matt. 2 years is nobody. 3 years is Joe. 5 years is Arden.
Will the next one be for Linda?
Pardon
Can we
me?
go ahead and draw Linda and Brett's out?
I don't see why we couldn't draw one out there. This would be for Brett.
Okay, that's like 3 to be. 2 years for Brett.
So Linda will be a 4-year. Let's make sure that's correct. We didn't stuff the ballot here. It is 4. All right?
Okay. 5 years. Well, let's see. How old will I be?
39.
Oh, very good. I must be going backwards then.
And just to be clear, that term runs from July 1 to...
January.
Oh, it runs from January?
January.
Okay.
January
And we
1.
do it on the calendar year, so that way, also a thought on that is, if you do it in July when the new budget comes out, and then you have new board members come on with a brand new budget that are brand new into all of it, there's not a breakup, there's not a buffering period there for them to catch up to speed.
This way, they will have been to at least 2 board meetings.
So Matt, you're gonna be on for a year and 2 months, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Correct?
Yes.
Okay,
And
all right,
I'm
we're
going to
good.
be on for 5 years.
Right.
I can do it. I can do it, Joe.
Good deal. Wait till you get to be secretary and see how you can do it.
You guys need to make a motion in a second on those.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept our terms of appointment, 1 through 5. Matt, Brett, Joe, Linda, Arden.
So I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the term appointments for the EMS board. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
Roll call, Arden
Yes.
and Joe would be yes. Okay?
Okay. Item 7, discuss action regarding meeting dates for the EMS board for the calendar year 2022 and file with the county clerk for December 15th each year.
Do you have one, Arden?
Yes, I did.
And I gave you one, Matt?
I thought I did somewhere.
Here's another one I have one.
Okay, so on this, I will go in and add, if you'll look at, they all fall at that first part of the first month of the first quarter, because we said the first Monday of the quarter. But as the board, you're going to be requesting reports from the agencies. And so they're gonna have, like in January, they'll have 3 days to compile the records for the last 3 months and get them to whoever. Would the second Monday or the third Monday be better? It would allow more time for the directors to close their quarter, compile their reports, and then send them in, as opposed to the quarter's closed and now I've got
Oh,
1 or 2 days to compile these reports to send to the board for you guys to process and digest.
so
And
you're talking about the 3 directors, meaning Alva, Winoka, and
Yes.
Freedom.
because,
Gives them a little more time to get that to us.
yes, so that you can look at their reports instead of just, the quarter ends and they've got 2 days or 3 days, up to, I think one of them falls on the 5th, 5 days max, and
That's during the 4th of July, too. What do you think about that, Pebbles?
Most bank statements come out middle of the month, so if you guys are gonna want those, I think she's got a good point of moving it further down each month. Because December, obviously, the town, they'll be getting their December bank statement probably January 10th through the 15th. And if you're gonna wanna see those, then they're not gonna have those available the first Monday every month.
So
So maybe the 15th-ish.
so basically 2 weeks from these dates that we posted in,
so the
right?
move it to the third Mondays.
Yeah, we can look at that.
Let's look at that and see then, like, I can change this and then still get it to her, because I have to have it to her by the 15th.
Of December.
Right. So instead of January 3rd on a Monday, it would be like the 17th. Does that sound good to you, Matt?
As far as,
It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, 17th.
So that would fall to the,
Tuesday.
yeah, it would fall to a Tuesday on that one if it falls on the holiday.
Okay, so we move that to the 18th. April 4th then probably is going to be the 18th.
Which is Easter Monday. Does that matter to anybody?
Easter Monday?
Is anybody off that since Easter's on?
Sunday.
We better move that to the 19th. Would be my suggestion.
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
And that's tax day.
Yeah, 18. Yeah,
Maybe you guys just want to meet
Whoa, okay.
I thought about even the
Third
4th might
Tuesday
be a
of every
problem.
month.
What'd you say now?
Maybe you guys just want to meet the third Tuesday of every month, the Mondays out.
That
since-
sounds
Well,
like,
that's what-
that sounds like the way the
That's where
calendar's
it's going.
going.
So July is going to be about the 19th then.
Yes, sir.
And October would be the 18th would be a Tuesday?
Yes.
Looks good.
Does that look all right? Now, obviously, we haven't talked with Brett, him being the banker. I don't know if Tuesday's a bad day or not. I don't know what he
He
said.
said Thursdays were the only day that
Yeah, that's
he
right,
couldn't
he did.
meet.
And are you guys still good on your times, or everybody was a little hesitant last meeting? You guys still good with one? or-
What is a good time for you, Matt? I mean, obviously, Arden and I are really, time is not a big deal. It is,
I've got 5 years.
I
It
know.
is a big deal.
but even if we had it at 5 o'clock in the evening, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, would it?
No, but if you have it at 1 o'clock and you want to have visitors, if you have guests, it's hard for a lot of people to get off. You know, that's why we have city council in the evenings, so we can have public comment if needed.
Yeah.
Now Randy says he doesn't think many people will show up, but you just never know. So I think it should be moved later in the day.
I think that's a good idea, personally. What do you think, Matt? You're one of the workers.
Well,
I mean, you maybe work at night, I don't know.
no, later in the day is okay, I can make that work.
Well, this way it keeps it from, breaking the day in half. You can complete
Which I know
your work
Brett
and then
did mention something about that. He said, obviously, I can get back and do whatever I need to do, but if we moved it to 3 or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, what would be better for you?
The 5 o'clock would be.
let's do 5:30.
5:30.
That way I can watch the news.
I like that.
Kettles?
I'm good for now. You don't know that I'll have to be at any of them. I'm just kind of here to see how things are going.
Oh, you may be back with a complaint, we just never
Oh,
know.
doubt that.
I'm guessing this office room will be open anytime we need to be in here.
We can, the calendar that hangs out there, we can write, once we set it in stone, we can go out there and we can put it on the calendar, and that's, the calendar that hangs is the reserving for this room.
Okay?
And once it's there, it's set in stone.
Okay. So, that was what was that?
Number 7.
7.
Motion?
I would make a motion that we move our time to 5:30, or we make our time 5:30, and the dates for next year would be the third, is it the third Tuesday? The third Tuesday of every month, which would be January 18th, April 19th, July 19th, and October 18th.
Second.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to set the meeting dates for the EMS board year 2022. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
I guess there's a quorum, so it doesn't matter, correct? I guess we could always go back and change them, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
For those other 2 people? Okay.
Oh, I don't know, once you publish that.
Well,
At least for
once I
2022.
publish this here, once I give it to her, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, the roll call on it then, Arden?
Yes.
And Joe is yes. So it passed.
Okay. Item 8 is discuss the possible action regarding adopting bylaws for the EMS board.
Did that book help you guys? Did everyone get it?
I did, and yes,
In
it
the
did.
email? Okay, good.
A bunch. It awoke me.
So you're like, oh my gosh. Who knew it was going to be so much detail?
Okay, hang on a second, I do have, oh, yeah, we just have everybody should have got that bylaws in that book that she sent. Or no, this is the bylaws from
Randy.
From Randy, yes. As I was going through this, I only saw a couple of changes. One of them, it really confused me because on the second page, it says that the copies of the minutes shall be kept at the Woods County Fire Department. Well, we don't have a Woods County Fire Department. So I went and talked to Shelley. She said, go talk to Chief Miller, which I did. and he said they should not be kept over here, which made sense to me because that's Alva Fire Department, and we're dealing with the county 522. So I'm thinking that if the language on this, it definitely should be changed to Woods County Courthouse where the record should be kept. That way, all three of the agencies would have an opportunity to go to one place. That would not be affiliated with Alva or Winoka or Freedom. It would be a combined affiliation. And then on down a
Can
little
I
bit farther.
see a set of those? Because I'm wondering how Alva Fire Department even got in the mix.
Well, I think it did because whoever put that together was just copy and pasting from another bylaws from somewhere else.
That one was the one from Custer County, from,
I think is
I
Pebbles.
mean, is that the latest, greatest plan for the
No.
city of Alva and their ambulance service to be under their fire department?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. You're talking to the wrong guy on that. But no, I don't think that was it. I do think that it was just, like I said, copy and pasted.
Okay.
And instead of, where it says Woods County Fire Department, it probably said whatever county fire department, Custer or whatever you're saying, and they just took Custer out and put Woods County in there. But I think being in the fire department is, and Brian didn't want it there. He said, no, that should not be here, when I went and talked to him. And I agree with him after I said,
Yeah,
we actually talked about it.
No business.
But that,
Were these one of the bylaws out of the book? Because there was
no, that's the set of bylaws that
recommendations
Randy,
in the book. Okay.
that was the set of bylaws that Randy handed
Did
out.
last meeting? Okay.
Yes.
right. And when he handed those out, honestly, I thought, well, these are the bylaws, but they're really not. We can decide how we want to do all of it. I would say this, and I know that's a little bit farther down in the agenda, but I would say, and I'm not skipping, but one thing that these bylaws do not mention anything about is an administrative position. And I'm not saying everybody's for it, I'm not saying everybody's against it, but me personally, I cannot see how we can put this thing, the whole thing together without having an administrator. I did hear one of our commissioners talk about we don't need one, but I don't see how we can do it. I mean, here's my thing, and I'm serious about this. Marion, you can put this on your headlines. I am a volunteer board member. I am not going to spend 40 hours a week, a month. I'm not going to spend 40 hours a month. I'm not going to spend 40 hours in 3 months putting together all these things. And being that person that's got to go and check with the director from Freedom, the director from Alva, the director from Winoka on a quarterly basis. I just don't think that's what this board, at least not whenever I said I would be a part of it, that's not what my intentions were. And for us to be audited every single year, we don't want a bunch of things that we're getting audited for that we're doing wrong. And I think if we have an administrator, and if you'll read in there, that administrator is one that is supposed to have, is a licensed EMT. If they're not licensed when we hire them, they have to be licensed within a year's time. Someone that knows a whole lot more about ambulance service than what Joe does. That's my personal opinion.
Because the board is not to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the organization.
Exactly. And I know it does, it will cost some money. I understand that totally, and I'm sure there's more than one way it can be done. But, when I was looking at this thing that Randy showed us, and Freedom is 6.82%, well, Freedom would pay 6.82% of that person, of that administrator. Alva would pay 54%, and Winoka 38%. I don't know a salary, and I understand probably if you have a salary, you also have to have, we've got to pay their Social Security, we've got to pay their insurance, workman's comp, all those things. So I know it's going to amount to a little bit of money. But we also are talking about, we have $635,000 to, to distribute. And we have a board, I don't know about you all, but as far as when we're distributing that money, if we were talking about what a baseball team was supposed to have for equipment, I would know. I don't know what an ambulance service is supposed to have for equipment. I just don't understand how anybody can think that we don't need an administrator to oversee all this. And not only oversee all this, but also that administrator, and it might be something where, maybe it's not a lifetime job. Maybe it's something that we need for 3 to 5 years just to get this board going, to head in the right direction, to where, 3 to 5 years from now, maybe it's not as complicated as what it is right now. But my feelings are, it's not something that we can just meet every 3 months and sign the receipts and really and truly expect for us to pass or expect for the auditor to say, okay, you didn't know that. Again, that's just my personal opinion.
Each ambulance service has a director.
Correct.
City of Alva has a city manager and a treasurer.
What if we actually just, instead of doing an employee, we just did it more like a contract consultant?
That was another way I was going to say it. It could be a part-time contract type person, which you probably know a lot more about those things than I do. And that might be a better way of doing it, because then we don't have to worry about, obviously if we were going to hire a person, it would probably have to go through Wood County, and they would be on their payroll. We would actually pay Woods County from this board, for that person. So that's another 10% or whatever you want to say off of the, off the budget that we have to start with. But I just know that, and I'm not against spending some time with it, but I do know that the time that it's going to take for us to put everything together is not going to be minimal by any means.
So when you talk administrator on those bylaws, I don't care either way how you do it. I know what you guys are looking for, that one person to help probably organize, keep things together, get everybody on track, blah, 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 which I don't have a problem with that. Some organizations, when it says administrator, that's overseeing the ambulance services themselves. He stated Freedom has a director, Winoka Outlaw have a director. They're already overseeing their ambulance services.
Yep. And no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is administrator then would basically work with those 3 directors, I think is what they call them. What are
Ambulance director.
Yes, directors, work with those directors. And then basically that person then would report back to us, and that person.
They're going to be your liaison to tell them we need your quarterly report by this day, that day, that day.
Right, and not only to tell them that,
rather than the
but to
chair.
put all that together for us as a board.
So it'd be a combination of the administrator and a clerk position where they're being the liaison, but they're also doing the legwork for the board of putting together the minutes, putting together all the office work, keeping the files in order so when the audit comes in, it's there.
Well, that administrator works with the auditor, along with the treasurer. I mean, obviously it says the treasurer's supposed to be in there, but otherwise the treasurer, just think of the amount of time the treasurer's going to have when it comes to audit time. And that treasurer job, yes, right now Brett's that guy, but it's going to rotate. And sooner or later, Arden, you're going to get to be that treasurer.
Technically, don't they just write 3 checks plus then what they go to the auditor? Literally 5 checks per year.
Yeah, and I think the director is ultimately going to be the most responsible for their
But it
expenditure.
doesn't fall back on the agencies, it falls back on the board
Yeah,
to make sure that that money was spent appropriately.
right.
It doesn't fall to the,
I guess I had assumed that this would be administered through the county clerk's office, which they don't need any more work, I'm sure.
And it is not.
I just kind of got that impression.
Yeah, and it's not going to.
So you just spoke of who hires that? You guys? Because you said it was gonna be paid out of the county. Is it gonna be paid out of Woods County? Is it
No,
gonna be out of
EMS.
here? Because,
It would actually be paid out of EMS.
522, or did
Yes, 5522, the board. But whether, if it was a contract thing like Matt's talking about, then I'm sure that could be paid, you know, strictly from the board to that person. If it was a salary type thing, then we would probably have to go through Woods County, you know, because then you're gonna, like you say, you're gonna add social security and all those things. in there.
Contract labor is different than.
Contract labor is way different, yeah.
And you know, the city council hires the city manager.
so I guess you guys need to be thinking of what kind of salary you're gonna be taking away from the ambulance services.
Right.
And I think this is a discussion that requires all of the board members to be here.
I agree 100%.
And I think that's a good suggestion.
I mean, it would just, that by hiring that person, it would take these, and I'm not trying to get out of work, don't get me wrong, but that person is going to be a lot more knowledgeable about things that we need to be putting in our agenda, and keeping everything more organized. That's just, and I'm not saying it needs to be a tremendous amount of money, even if it was a contract labor, it doesn't have to be, you know. And when we're talking about percentages, you know, like I said, let's just say it was $10,000. Well, then you're looking at Freedom only paying $682. You know what I'm saying? Alva's going to pay $5,400. Winoka's going to pay $3,800.
Actually, one of my questions was, how did they even divide this up? Because to me, it sounds like we can do whatever we want with the money. Let's say that Freedom needs a new ambulance, we can give Freedom the money for that ambulance.
We can't do that.
It's in
Here's-
the
That's how the ballot
proposal.
was written.
Yeah.
School district.
It's, if you look at that map, I don't know if you saw that map, but there's a map that shows the 3 areas of Woods County, and whatever area that you're paying those taxes out of goes to that particular place, whether it be Freedom, Winoka, or Alva. Yeah, and that's where they come up with that percentages. Yep. Yeah, and you're right, in that, because I kind of thought that too. Well, we'd be responsible for maybe buying Freedom an ambulance, but it's not. Freedom is responsible for their own ambulance with that money, you know, combined with other money they may raise or whatever. That's just a part of that money.
Another thing we needed to check on where you just mentioned on the ballot where it was written as school districts. You know, there was some in the Allen Clio area, there was some Cherokee-ish maybe, to make sure that money is in these numbers.
I went up and I talked to David.
Because you remember where those fell off the
Yeah.
map into other counties, but it was in our
It was in
school
our,
districts?
no, it was in,
Alva
because
School
we went
District
for
in
county.
Winoka.
We went for countywide because like the southern tip of the county, hold on, I just saw
But
the
I
maps.
thought the ballot sold into the school districts.
No, it was sold as countywide.
Okay.
They changed that.
That's better.
We went as countywide, not school district, because if we went as school district, we lost that whole southern tip of the county to Allen Clio School District.
And some to Burlington as well.
Yeah, we lose like 2 sections over here to Burlington.
But Arden, I do agree with you in that it needs to be something that all of us are together with, which would also make us table the bylaws.
I see that.
And here's, I mean,
Well, moving on to another part of the bylaw, I think that if we have guests, they should be required to register, and we should have a public comment of allowable up to 2 minutes after each agenda item after stating their name. And let's see. Oh, yeah, and then I had questions about the time of the meeting, and not so much the date, but
What's
the
that?
times of the meeting. So those were my concerns
I'm
about
still reading through
the
that.
bylaws.
I'll make
Notice
a
I didn't
copy.
see anything about it.
I'll get a copy for
Okay.
okay, Arden, would you please say that one more time?
I'll just give you a
I'm
copy
sorry.
right here. And Randy says, we may never have any guests, but if we do, we should account for them.
On Tuesday.
Say
Yes,
again?
2 guests today.
Oh, yeah.
We're not, they're not following the rules.
Well, we don't have that in our bylaws yet either.
True.
So are we just gonna like continue to
I think we
revise
just-
the bylaws until we kind of feel comfortable and then we'll approve them?
I think, well, we're not gonna approve them today
Yeah.
unless we decide not to. We already talked about maybe including the other 2 people on these bylaws, so we're probably not gonna approve them today, right?
I wouldn't vote to approve them today,
Okay.
so that won't work.
I agree.
Unless you can get that to break the tie.
Anything else that we need to be looking at on these? I mean, obviously Arden just mentioned that and we need to put that down there, but that's just one thing, and I mentioned about the not director, but administrator.
And Joe, we don't know what comments Linda and Brett made.
Right,
That they would have offered today had they been here.
right, they may be against that totally, and you guys might be, I may be the only one that's thinking we need to do that, I'm not saying that.
And you have out of this book, the descriptions.
Oh, yeah, there are some, and these are just something you can take and look over, and I'll bring these back, but these are basically some job descriptions that that administrator would be kind of involved with. These are from some other agencies.
No, this is straight from the 522 Bible. This is from when I say 522 Bible, I'm referring to the resource guide that Pebble sent out. These are back in Appendix C, and so that's where these 2 different job descriptions came from, straight out of this.
There's 2 different examples, you say?
One
Well,
of
it's
them
actually-
is the clerk, and one of them is the board administrator for where the 522 contracts for.
But my suggestion would be that we combine these to make it an administrator's duties. And there are some duties in here that wouldn't include, we wouldn't include, that we wouldn't need. And there might be some other things that we would need that administrator to do. I'm just saying it would be something that y'all should read and we talk about later whenever we are including or, wanting to decide if we're gonna go with that administrator or not.
Or something we could draw up a contract using these as well.
For contract labor.
Are you thinking contract labor is probably,
No, not necessarily. I'm just thinking, we're gonna contract with the ambulances and then we'd have a contract with the consultant or whatever. But we can also do an administrator.
or we could not? I mean, yes, but I do think we need those other 2 people here, so we're not just pushing something through.
Right, we don't want to make too much work for ourselves, nor do we want extra work for the county clerk.
Right.
That could lead to
And I've been to
Situation.
see Shelley a couple times,
I know you have,
and
and she's been very helpful.
she is very helpful. But
She
also-
knows the law,
Yeah,
and that administrator needs to know the law too.
right. Yeah, and I'm not thinking that we need, and we may not find one. I'm not saying that we will, but because it's going to have to be someone that is a EMT registered licensed person or is willing to get that license within a year is what it said in the book.
That may be a problem. Yes, good, okay. Are you?
So I think that for now, if we don't have any other things to maybe talk about with the bylaws, we need to table that.
Agreed.
To whom, let's see, this is from our Bible, but is there another ambulance 522 district that's currently utilizing an administrator that we can contact?
Well, yes. I don't know the names of them, but the ones that I went
Does
through,
Custer County have a?
I don't think Custer County did
All the
that.
counties or all the 522 districts are listed in the front of that bill, right?
Yes.
So you can just call it, I'm sure you can start calling.
Pebbles, do you know, I've got a list of which ones contract for service and which ones don't from the director of the State Department of Health. but I can make some phone calls to, between the two of us, we can find out.
They're all set up differently, so. that's
Right,
why
they
it's
are.
easier to find someone that's close to how you guys want it set up.
But yeah,
Because some of them are school districts and some are, you know, countywide. And some of them are set up to where instead of, you know, each ambulance being a city ambulance, it's from the outside coming in. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can set it up. I don't think that that's one we want to do, but there are a lot of different ways. We just need to make sure that we have our own bylaws and we're all happy with what we're doing.
I agree.
So I'm going to make a motion then on number 8. Did Randy say that it was okay to, who did he talk to? Did he talk to you? It was okay to table that? Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we table discussion, possible action regarding adopting bylaws for this meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Then moved and seconded to table the bylaws. Is there any further discussion? Second.
Okay, roll call on that. Joe is yes. Arden?
Yes.
So that is passed.
Item 9, discuss possible action regarding EMS contracts with each city for EMS coverage.
Okay.
Back to the stack.
Back to the stack.
Did I hand these out to you yet?
No,
Yeah, would you?
I don't need it.
Hello. These are just some contracts. Now these actually do have where they're from. The first one is from Watonga. Maybe this is the only one I have. It's the only one I copied was the one from Watonga. But I had several different ones. This one was one that I thought might be, I will say this, it was the easiest to read. Some of them are pretty thick.
I went through a couple of them.
Yeah. And I don't know that this is exactly what we're going to do because, you know, this also may include school districts, if I remember right. But again, Arden, this is probably, when we're talking about contracts, we might want to make sure that, you know, everyone is involved with that, or as many people as we can from a meeting.
And then before we approve anything, I think we should bounce it off the county attorney, so.
Yes, and also, you know, some of them, Pebbles, some of the contracts that I had really got into more what the director does. You know what I'm saying? As far as, I mean, it was, I don't think that we wanted to be involved with how many Band-Aids you're ordering and all those kind of things. And some of the contracts were like that, a little bit more in depth, is what I'm trying to say. This one I thought was pretty vague, or pretty broad.
That would be less local control and more board control.
We don't want that, no. No.
So each individual ambulance district will bill for their services.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pebbles, but does Freedom actually bill, or they do not bill, do they?
We'll give our 43,000 back before we bill.
See, they're one of the only ones in the state that do that, isn't that right?
Yes.
They don't, I mean, if they go on a run, you don't get a bill from them.
But I mean, that goes to the flexibility of these contracts. Freedom has survived all these years on nothing but soul donations. And as the board to go in and force them to change that, I think that it's forcing upon Freedom something that isn't right for Freedom. And so there's something that these, just like the bylaws, can be molded and modified and shaped into whatever the board chooses for it. As far as changing a service like Freedom to force them to build, that's not what this board is, what we wanted from the board, or what the board's what this money was intended for. You look at the numbers of runs a year, you look at the population that they run on. Those people that make the donations are the people that they run on.
We would be spending more on a building clerk to build those out than the money we would receive with the Medicare cuts, things like that.
Right, I have,
There's write-offs of EMS every month for thousands of dollars. By the time we wrote off bills and paid someone to do our billing, we would be in the hole.
Matt, I was telling you about how they're, but yeah, in the, well, in this information I have, this was in 2019, there were approximately 50 ambulance runs in Freedom. So I mean, yeah, you're talking, if you had to hire a clerk to do all that, for 50 of them, you're not gonna make any money when it comes out in. Right.
So that's why.
Alva had approximately 1,000 and Winoka had approximately 200. And I'm not sure how Winoka, I'm guessing they do charge.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have a subscription, an ambulance subscription. They have the tax. The subscription is a mandatory fee on their water bill. And they have the tax, and their city sales tax, and they have their billing. And that's what funds them.
But this is another reason, when we're talking about contracts and bylaws, that I think we need an administrator to help us with these things. So,
I think there'll be a big difference of how you write these contracts versus if you have that administrator or not. You know what I mean? If you're gonna have your administrator overseeing some of this and getting it, if you don't have that administrator, then it needs in black and white and what's
Right.
expected of each of those ambulance services.
so we are gonna have to.
Either way, it needs to be black and
Right,
white.
so we need to decide whether we're gonna have the administrator or not before we actually get into making the bylaws and the contracts. I think you're right.
I mean, I hate for you guys to have to meet again and again and again. We
No,
always
but
have to
I
keep it
agree.
simple,
That's what we need to do.
but I think to do it correctly.
So on the discussion and possible action regarding the contracts, I would say again that we table that until another meeting and hope that we have all 5 of us here to make decisions on that.
It's getting more and more complex.
So I'm making that motion that we table number 9.
I'll second it.
I know, Arden, you say it's getting complex, and that wasn't the idea when it was set up, but I do appreciate you guys taking the time to maybe meet again and to get it right, so that we don't have a hiccup. I mean, this is for years,
Right.
not
Right.
just tomorrow.
Right,
What you guys
exactly.
are setting up is gonna be for a long time to
Right.
come.
And to do it right from the beginning, that's the
Save
key.
you a headache later, I think.
It'll save everybody a headache later.
But we can always revise contracts. You know, I mean, we're not gonna be able to set it up perfect.
No,
Right.
We're gonna have to revise it. So I have a motion to move, or it's been moved and seconded to table item number 9, the EMS contracts. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
Okay, so roll call on that. Joe is yes. Arden?
Yes.
Okay, so that is passed.
Okay. Item 10, discuss action regarding creation of the administrative position for the board.
I think we've already talked about that, and that's something that we can move to another meeting. And that might be something on the next one, that may be on the agenda before the bylaws and the contract.
And of course, Linda and Brett will be getting copies of the minutes by email, and we hope they respond to those and realize that they're going to have to help us make some hard and fast decisions regarding the future of this organization.
Correct. And I will say that I actually sent both of them. Well, I know I sent Brett, but I also got the email back. It came back as undeliverable. I don't know why, but the email I got from Shelley, it came back undeliverable. And that may be why he's not here today, although we did set the meeting, when he was here.
The city council get an email, the council members get an email, but they're also hand-delivered a copy of the agenda. Would that be possible?
Could mail one out.
Or we can make,
If
I bet you we could get it delivered to all places.
If the agenda's out early enough, we could mail it or hand deliver it or whatever.
So I think that's something in the future we should do.
So, okay, hand delivered, you talking about through registered mail or?
Well, they actually bring it to your door in Alva, but that's, this is a remote location, but
Okay,
Matt is in the Winoka area.
Email's fine for me, so.
I can't come to your house?
You can if you want.
Just tie up the dog, clean out the latch string, put a light in the window.
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to move, motion to, or did we already move to?
No, we need a motion to table the creation of the administrative position.
Okay. Look for that.
I make a motion that we table number 10, which is discussion, possible action regarding creation of administrative position.
And I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to table the creation of the administrator position. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
Okay, roll call. Joe, yes. Arden?
Yes.
Item 11, discuss possible action regarding the date, time, and location of the next EMS board special meeting.
Which will have to be a special meeting,
And it will have to be posted 48 hours in advance.
right?
In a mayonnaise jar on the front porch. Remember what Johnny Carson used to talk about, the mayonnaise jar on the front porch? Remember that, Mary Ann?
Okay, so when are we thinking?
Well, it needs to be a Tuesday, so we can get in the habit.
Okay, we're gonna have to do this then,
Third Tuesday
Maybe
in
the-
December.
probably not.
November 23rd,
That's Thanksgiving.
25th is Thanksgiving.
Well, I know, but that's the,
Thanksgiving week.
yes,
He starts his celebration early.
that's right. I was gonna say that Tuesday after Thanksgiving is what I was thinking, which would be November 30th. Pardon? November 30th?
1 o'clock?
Or do we want to go 1 o'clock, or do we want to go at 5:30?
5:30.
I think so.
What exactly do we have to have in place for this first meeting, the January 18th meeting?
I think really the one thing that we have to have in place are the dates for our meetings starting in January.
But
We have to have that.
establish that, right?
Yeah, we did, and so I've got to get that fixed and turned in to Shelley by then, to the clerk by then. And that's really all that I know of. The only,
We need to look at making a decision about an administrator. We might not have to actually have the job description at that time, but I think we need to make a decision at that meeting.
for the next meeting.
Yes.
And I think that needs to be like, before we decide on the contracts and the bylaws.
I figured we'd have to have the contracts signed before we gave them the money.
Well, yeah, are we giving them money before
I thought that's what we were doing,
January the 18th or whatever that day was?
not before then, but I figured that's when we would write the checks for the first.
The county will start receiving money come December, January, February, so without that, you don't get it till the quarter, April-ish. I don't remember what he said, but they will start receiving money.
I see what you're saying though, Matt, yes. Should we have
Actually,
a contract?
What do you say, their budget would be good?
The
say this next week? I don't even know what he
The
said.
estimated budget should be hammered out,
Approved.
yeah. But I don't know what that really means for some of the stuff.
So you're saying by before January 18th meeting, we should have our contract for the,
No, not, I guess now that I know that we're not gonna have the money available until the second quarter almost, is when we really, as long as we have the contracts in place before we give the money out, it's the only thing,
And the bylaws.
yeah.
so we have to have them in stone at least when we have that meeting, January 18th, is what you're saying.
I think we need to have the bylaws,
Say-
a draft of bylaws and put them in place, and then the contract can come later. We can, well, we'd have to have a special meeting maybe before that, April, meeting. But I really don't want to have to do that.
Right. Well, I think that our next meeting, hopefully we can get some of this stuff taken care of, as far as the contracts and the bylaws, and if we're gonna have an administrator, and then we can get all of that, on paper, and the 18th, then we will try and approve that.
Okay.
So that way we only have one more meeting this year, that special meeting on Tuesday, November 30th.
Do you need action on number 11?
Yes.
So, we do need a motion for the next, November 30th at 5:30 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second that.
So moved and seconded to have a special meeting November 30th at 5:30 p.m. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
Okay, roll call on that. Arden
Yes.
and Joe is yes. So that passed.
Item 12, new business.
It's all new business.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any, unless you have something, Arden, I do not.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so on number 13 then, I would make a motion to adjourn, recess, to make a motion to adjourn, yes.
I'll second it.
The motion's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any further discussion? Secretary?
Joe, yes. Arden?
Yes.
All right.